There is still an uphill climb to meet President Biden's July 4th COVID vaccination goal. Right now, more than 177 million Americans have at least one dose of a coronavirus vaccine. That's just over 53%. President Biden wants at least 70% of eligible Americans to have at least one dose by July 4th. Hitting that mark would put America on the cusp of reaching herd immunity.
But vaccination rates are lagging in many states. In fact, over the next 13 days, at least 1 million people per day will need to receive their first dose in order to hit the president's goal. So right now, only about 200,000 people per day are actually getting vaccinated. We have a lot more coronavirus news to go ahead and get to today. So let's start with NBC News correspondent Stephanie Gosk, who is here in New York City, where the city reopened in a pretty big way last night. Stephanie, last night the city held its first full capacity concert since the pandemic. I know many of us are missing hugs and music. So how did it go?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. A lot of us are missing live music, and this was a really big sign last night that we're going to be able to get back into it here at Madison Square Garden, arguably one of the most famous arenas in the entire world, opening up 100% capacity last night for the Foo Fighters. But there was a little bit of a catch here, Morgan. Not only did you have to have one of these coveted tickets to get inside, you also had to have a vaccine. So everyone that was allowed inside had to prove that they were vaccinated. But you know what? If you checked those boxes, you had your ticket, you had your vaccine, and you were here, you were pretty excited. Listen to what they were telling us last night before the show.
Unbelievable. This is like the best feeling ever. Foo Fighters are my number one.
It's amazing to go to a concert after almost 2 years. Really excited to get back in there. We're not afraid. We love rock and roll, and we love New York City.
Look, anyone that goes to a concert is excited to be there, but you can just hear it in people's voices. There's an exuberance there to actually be back at it. And I'll tell you, Morgan, standing on the streets right now, outside MSG, we're at 33rd Street, which for people who don't know, Manhattan, it's kind of midtown-ish. A year ago, there was nobody on these streets. Right now, you've got people going back to work. You've got vacationers, tourists who are here again. It really does feel alive in a way that it hasn't before.
And in a way that we've all been waiting to feel. Stephanie, though, let me ask a question about something you said just a moment ago. You said that they had to have their vaccinations, but how exactly did they prove it? Was it through the QR code system? Was it their actual vaccination card? How did they prove that?
There's this Excelsior pass here in the state of New York that you have to download, and then that shows that you've been vaccinated. That's one of the ways that people can prove that they're vaccinated. And this is a controversial issue, and we're going to be hearing about it on all facets of life for a while going forward. Whether it's concerts, whether it's universities and colleges requiring people to get vaccinated. There were protesters outside of Madison Square Garden last night. They were upset that there was this mandate, and there are large swaths of this country, as you know, where people aren't going to get their vaccines. And there's an unfortunate political divide in that conversation, and we're going to be hearing about these kinds of things all over the place. But here in New York, it's not just concerts, it's also going to be, if you want to go to see a show on Broadway, if you want to go catch a game, see the Mets play this summer, there are going to be a lot of places where you need to have a vaccine to go. Morgan?
The first step in crossing the finish line to this pandemic. Stephanie Gosk for us there in a lively and vibrant New York City. Stephanie, thank you.
Well, we know this pandemic has taken an especially tough toll on children, from spending hours in front of a computer screen every day for virtual classes to not being able to play with their friends. It's been a struggle for a lot of young people. And one summer tradition may be changing dramatically, too. Summer camps are facing a huge challenge right now, not only when it comes to safety, but staffing, too. NBC News Now correspondent Dasha Burns joins us now from rural Pennsylvania to explain one of the camps and what they're dealing with. Hi, Dasha.
Hey, Aaron, hearing Stephanie Goff's report just now, it really feels for a lot of us like things are starting to get back to normal. But for the folks who are trying to create that experience of normalcy, like those who run summer camps, they are still facing huge challenges. In a typical year, about 25,000 camp workers come from abroad on J-1 visas. Those international folks, a huge part of the camp experience at places like Camp IHC, where I am today. Well, this year, that number went from 25,000 to just a few thousand, putting camps across the country in a really tough spot. Watch. For camp director Lauren Rutkowski, preparing to open her sleepaway camp in rural Pennsylvania is always a challenge. But this year, it's been exceptionally difficult.
All over our industry, people are struggling for staff.
Camps across the country rely on international staffers who come on J-1 visas. Camp IHC typically employs nearly 200 counselors from overseas. But this year, the COVID travel ban forced a number of consulates and embassies to stop granting visas, leaving camps like Lauren's struggling to fill vital positions.
How big a portion of your counselors are from overseas?
So typically anywhere from 30 to 40% will be international.
How does that compare to what you have this year?
So we've probably cut it in half.
According to Scott Brody, National Board Chair of the American Camp Association, the visa issue has contributed to a national camp crisis.
It's caused some camps to close completely. Other camps are cutting sessions, cutting numbers.
Especially in demand, camp lifeguards and boating and climbing instructors. And the number of college students applying for camp positions is way down too.
After a year of confinement, they want to spread their wings, and coming to camp and giving up some of that really wasn't that attractive for some.
Some international camp workers are finding their way into the U.S. by way of Mexico. That's where Irish native and head camp counselor Sean Yelverton got his visa.
We're talking total probably 15, 16 days.
But others, like Roxy Bradley, weren't so lucky. The UK native was a Camp IHC counselor before the pandemic, but this summer she was unable to get a visa to return.
I'm upset. I'm frustrated. I wish I could be there.
Lauren said to reopen this summer, she launched a website and social media campaign aimed at recruiting American college students to fill positions. It worked. She's found enough workers for now.
But the kids are going to come here and they are going to feel that everything is normal. But it was an absolute beast of a job getting to that point.
Now, Dasha, you mentioned that the camp launched a social media blitz to try to find more workers. What are other camps doing?
Yeah, camps have had to get really creative here, Aaron. A lot of folks are training their counselors in multiple jobs, so training them to be lifeguards or boating instructors wearing multiple hats. But some have simply had to cut down programming, which is coming at possibly the worst possible time because a lot of parents right now, more than ever, are trying to get their kids to reconnect after a year of lockdown. But so many camps just can't deliver right now, Aaron.
All right. Dasha Burns for us along a beautiful lake in Pennsylvania. Dasha, thank you. Still ahead today, a tragic accident at a pride celebration in Florida.
In fact, an out-of-control truck crashed through a parade, and we'll tell you the new details we're learning about that investigation coming up next. Stay with us.
Our world is facing some big challenges. Chuck Todd breaks them down. Every Thursday, a deep dive into a new topic.
Instead of covering all the big stories, we're going to cover one single subject impacting American politics.
Exploring and explaining the critical issues that affect our future. Meet the Press Reports. Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. Streaming on NBC News Now. And available next day on demand on Peacock.
Ready actors.
An indie horror film, a talented young actress, and a deadly shot. Dateline's newest podcast, Killer Roll.
Action!
Subscribe for free wherever you get your podcasts. Get more of everything you love about today, now all day. Talk with friends all day.